So setting up a new school, one of our intentions, the competing schools, please. I would appreciate it if you consider this for what this is, research and development. Anyway, so for we have discovered not only does Namibia have the oldest desert in the world, or where most people come from, the oldest desert, which used to be sea. Where did the first fish crawl out of? And we know that in Pangaea, people were still exploring, running away from monsters and so forth. Here's something that I think is really possible, and I don't see why most people think it isn't, considering that history was not really being, how can you say, documented. You know, you have pyramids not only in Egypt but somewhere else. But how? Well, here's the thing. Africans were in Asia, Europe, and the Americas way before the world started to split apart. And these Africans, I'm talking about our ancestors, the ones who are still evolving, don't know which will be which. But this week, little primates were going around the world. Yeah, they were quite little. Going around the world, trying to find safe haven. That's why you have the root. Why did people come back down to Africa? Because of the fire tales. You see, it's the same as the religion. Religions are intertwined. You find out this religion is the same as that, and this religion might be the same as that one. Why? Because the premise is the same. But when one clan moves, later on the words become myth. They become tales. They become law. But our DNA, which shows all the same, yada yada yada. There's one more thing that it excludes. When we split apart, and Africans to Africans, Europeans to Europeans, Asians to Asians, Eskimos to Eskimos, different things started happening. For example, the Caucasian African, some of them mated with Neanderthals. Some of them. So some of them did taint our blood as Homo sapiens. But all in all, we're one, all African. We have borders now, we have, all of that. We have skin change. But at the core of it, like someone told me, a white woman and a black man will not have a white baby. They'll have a black baby. Why? Because the white man is black himself. It's interesting that we don't look at law as something that we can appreciate, something we can discuss. Archaeology is limited to geography. It's limited to geography, which limits it completely. This is why one of the most revered scientists ever, I don't think there is a scientist who had forethought and vision that comes close to Darwin. When Darwin, there was another guy who was also, had kind of the same idea, and there was forgetting the history. Natural selection, the theory of evolution, right? Years later, they found bones of evolution when this man was dead, in birds, crocodiles. And evolution was at its peak when the world was one. Because when the world was one, especially for the animals that had a higher sense of, let's just say, bigger brains, the apes. I know most people don't like to consider the fact that Homo sapien are kind of, from the ape family, but we are. When those animals started to come together, and the strongest would be the leader, the strongest would have the wife, and the offspring would be strong. And you get where I'm going? And as these primitive lifestyle approaches started to go away, and it was a case of grouping to survive, the brain became important. And that's really hard to find. They couldn't go around saying, this is a smart kid or that's a smart kid. It was all about this is a loyal kid or this kid belongs to who. You can find out who the smart ones are, have smart kids, and so looking at natural selection from that viewpoint, without the utter scientific need for evidence and facts, which has corrupted science because it brings about borders. There is this belief that the human mind has reached its limit and only our instruments can show us what we can see. This might be true for astronomers, it might be true for biologists, but the same is not true for those that I deem most important, the archaeologists. Archaeologists are so underestimated, while they are the ones that find the proof. And the world's history happens to be in the oldest desert in the world, the one with the huge dunes. How do you remove a 45-meter dune so that you can start digging for your research? You can map it from the top, see what's at the bottom, but there's only so much. At certain levels, since it used to be the sea, lies so many questions. And I want people to come and explore this. But of course, there also happen to be diamonds all around that area, making things kind of complicated. But looking at what I've seen, what I'm learning, I've been learning a lot about agriculture. I'm going to go into I am in agriculture anyway, but what I see, which is why I moved away from the money conscious way of thinking, what I see is sort of an investment in a normal way of life, right? And this is sort of like the start of it all. This is where it starts. I'm not talking to the people waiting for paychecks and chicken injected with all sorts of chemicals. No. I'm talking to the people who know the value of untouched nature, and when it's conserved, it begins to tell a story, and it's valuable. Like I told you, those lands, the lands that we have there, and the output that was coming out of there, the numbers blew me away. 150 million US dollars. That is a lot. But the people need to be a part of this, right? It needs to be a shared collective, because it's not really about money. Money is a tool, but how do we use this tool? We get more tools. So I'm challenging archaeologists to prove me wrong on what I just said, and also this is the way humans should live. City life, metropolis, apartments. Nah, the space we have that we're going to develop will have a Wi-Fi tower. It'll span kilometers, but the Wi-Fi towers will provide Wi-Fi at every end. It might be walled, guarded, and I spoke of it as the Silicon Valley of the Silicon Valley without silicon, a place where people can go learn, where knowledge can be nourished, and communities can be rebuilt, and technology can be used, and where it does not impose on people's ways of life. That's the school project. It has a lot of layers. I'm going to talk about it more. But I'm just letting out a few details. And then later on, I'll start writing out the blueprints, except this time I'll do it differently. I'll type myself, I'll CC them. Copyright, print, distribute. Because right now I am so late. I'm supposed to be writing 2 books this year, and yeah, I mean, I'm behind, like behind. Right, I did have started, but yeah.